Never heard of the car brand Cupra? I don't blame you. It's a niche outfit which only made its way to Australia midway through 2022. But it is starting to make waves thanks to its range of sporty styled cars such as this all-electric hatchback, the 2023 Cupra Born. Want to know more? Stay watching and I'll give you the top notes on everything you need to know about the 2023 Cupra Born, the brand's first all-electric hatchback. Cupra is a Spanish offshoot brand of parent company SEAT. SEAT itself is part of the Volkswagen Group, so there may be a few similarities in parts, but the Cupra Born is the new brand's first all-electric offering in Australia. In fact, it's one of the Volkswagen Group's first all-electric vehicles to Australia as well. It shares underpinnings of the Volkswagen ID3, a similarly sized electric hatchback, which will also come to Australia at a later date. The Cupra Born is sold locally in just one variant. It's the one with a large electric motor and the longest electric range. Specifically, its outputs of 170 kilowatts and 310 newton meters have the brand suggesting that it's a pseudo hot hatch. But keep watching and we'll see about that. In any case, the 77 kilowatt hour battery sends power to the rear wheels, so that's a good start. Cupra is keen to point out that it has an EV range of 511 kilometers and its price also begins with a 5. Two very impressive points to launch an electric vehicle with. It costs $59,990 before on-road costs in this single spec variant, though you can add option packs to up-spec the vehicle. However, if you do that, the passenger capacity oddly reduces from 5 to 4. We're getting acquainted with a Born that specifies a performance pack. For that, you'll pay $2,600 and it comes with these larger 20-inch alloy wheels which also come wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport tyres. Of course, you'll also see the copper branding at the front and back end of the car to signify this car as a Cupra. There's not a huge amount of visual drama to signify this Cupra as a hot hatch. Personally, I think it's a good looker, but it doesn't really stand out as either an electric car or a hot hatch. Tell me what you think of it in the comments. However, it does specify a whole load of equipment inside the cabin. Leaning into the car's sustainable theme, the Born is upholstered with a fabric trim composed of recycled ocean plastics. Immediate highlights include alloy pedals, a small digital instrument cluster, and a larger 12-inch infotainment display. Other headline equipment includes wireless phone charging, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring, dual zone climate control, heated steering wheel, rear privacy glass, ambient lighting, a 360-degree camera system, and adaptive cruise control. Space-wise, I'm about 194 centimeters tall and I'm finding there's actually a really good amount of room inside this cabin. There's good support in this seat to get a nice driving position and there's good adjustability between the seats and the steering wheel. And you've also got excellent headroom and knee room to keep comfy on longer journeys. There's a big center console covered by a lid for storing your bits and pieces, while there's also a 12-inch display which sits proud of the dash. It's not the easiest system to control, and annoyingly, there's a bunch of menus for simple adjustments like adjusting the climate control. I also don't like the touch buttons, which can be a bit hit and miss whether they register a fingerprint or not. Fit and finish and build quality inside the cabin is done to a really high standard. You get a leather steering wheel here to touch, and you also have a bit of this hard plastics on the door cards, though it is done with a bit of pattern, which actually does make it feel quite nice. You get this nice microfiber cloth fabric on the center console bin here, and also on the door card pulls. And you've also got, as I mentioned earlier, this ocean plastic trim, which actually feels quite durable for what it is. In the second row, again, I'm quite impressed with the amount of space on offer behind my own driving position. You have good room for your feet and your knees, and there's also good headroom too. In terms of amenities, you do get two USB-C ports in the back of the center console here, but you don't get air vents. You do get this map pockets on either side, and you do get door cards as well, and a fold-down center armrest. Do note, with this car being a performance-backed car, it doesn't come with a fifth seat, so it's 4-seater only. Space in the boot is a commodious 385 litres with the seats up. Unfortunately, there's no storage under the front bonnet, which you might ordinarily find in an electric car. One thing you'll notice almost immediately is the lack of any noise. Obviously, it doesn't have an engine, so it shouldn't have any noise, but with the lack of an engine, you sort of get a little bit more noise from things like tires and wind, and this car actually does a really good job of getting rid of all those sort of imperfections coming through to the cabin. It's actually really quite refined inside this cabin here. Lean into the throttle and you do get that 170 kilowatt, 310 newton meter output sent to the rear wheels. The only real time it feels quite fast is immediately off the line, where it sort of tapers off towards the top end there, and you don't really get that sort of surge of acceleration that you expect from a hot hatch. One thing that I'm struggling with just a little bit is the brake pedal. It's quite hard to modulate between the electric regen and the actual grabbing of the brakes, and it just feels a little bit weird when you come into a corner and you don't get the same response as you would actually normally expect. Visibility out of the cabin is good for the most part, but it is hampered by a very deep dash which has this long A-pillar which can be quite hard to see through. We're in a performance pack car which does have the adaptive dampers, which when you switch it to one of the Cupra or performance driving modes really sharpens up the car and does make it sort of lean into that sporting feel. Overall, ride control is well managed. You sort of don't get that really impact through to the cabin from larger sort of imperfections in the road, and it doesn't really pick up those little niggly imperfections that you otherwise expect from a hot hatch. While it can feel a bit sprightly on a straight, when you push it in through a corner, it doesn't really like carrying too much speed through the corner, partly because of its 1950 kilogram weight, which does feel a little bit hard to contend with once you're going through a corner. More than just top line power output numbers, it does have a power to weight ratio of 87 kilowatts per tonne, which isn't really what you expect from a hot hatch and sort of just leaves you a little bit in the warm hatch territory. One thing I will say is the steering actually feels quite nice, and you do get a good sense of what's going on under the tyres and the amount of available grip. With the Michelin Pilot Sport tyres equipped to this car, there's a strong hold of grip and you don't really feel like there's any slip eventuating from coming through corners or punching out the other side. Well, Cupra might be a relatively unknown brand to most, but it's injecting some impressive cars with some solid character into our local market. The Cupra Born here puts forward a good foot for electric cars in general. It's generously equipped, has an excellent vehicle range, and it also remains pretty affordable in the realm of electric cars. But it's not a proper hot hatch, at least in our books. It lacks the power and emotion we've come to expect from a bratish hot hatch, while it also feels a bit sluggish through corners. View it as a well-presented and well-equipped small electric hatchback, and you'll come away with a far better appreciation of what the Cupra Born can do. If you want to know more about the 2023 Cupra Born electric hatchback, read the full review at drive.com.au. Also, be sure to subscribe and like this video to stay up to date with all of our extra content and everything we've got coming up.